views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello and welcome to Bello's Fashionistas Home Edition. I am your host, Fleriser Bello. It is a pleasure to have you join us on this beautiful afternoon. We trust that you and your loved ones are well and staying safe. In today's Bello's Fireside chat conversation, we welcome back housing attorney and the vice president of the Dominican Bar Association, Atenedoro Gonzalez. Atenedoro Gonzalez, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm always excited to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you join us at Bello Fashionistas. Attorney Gonzalez, we recently spoke about the eviction memorandum and how it has affected millions, not only in the state of New York, but throughout the United States. Can you tell us what is the status and where it stands today?
The last time I was here, we've talked about the eviction moratorium. Basically, that means that tenants cannot be evicted. Marshals cannot act on warrants of eviction that were issued, and tenants were not in danger of being removed from their home because of situations in relation to COVID. As of now, it's been extended again, and in the months since we were here last time, it's been extended several times. But right now, it's most recently been extended to October 1st. So at the very least, until October 1st, tenants cannot be evicted. Marshals cannot act on ongoing warrants of eviction. So tenants should not fear being evicted. That said, even though there is a moratorium on evictions, that doesn't mean that housing court, is not working. That cases have stopped. In fact, landlords are able now to file new cases with certain exceptions. But they can file cases against tenants now for non-payment. They can file cases for holdovers. They're able to go to court and file or even mail in petitions, because of this. So, even though we do have a moratorium, that does stop things through October 1st. That doesn't mean that folks aren't going to court now. Even as attorneys, when we have cases that were here before COVID, for example, we are now, working on those cases with the other landlords. We are in court for those cases. They are calling us in for conferences, and we're even hosting trials now in several parts of New York, especially parts in Brooklyn. The Bronx is now starting to have in-person trials starting September 15th. So, cases are ongoing, and even if eviction warrants are issued during that time, which they can be, marshals are not able to act on them, and tenants cannot be evicted at least until October 1st.
How the process has been with new cases?
So the good thing is, no one is being forced to go in person for cases unless it's a trial. And right now, we've only seen trials between two attorneys, not between a pro se tenant, for example. So if you are someone who does have a housing court case, whether it's you suing your landlord for repairs or your landlord suing you, you are able to appear virtually. The courts are making sure that they provide all of this information to tenants and to landlords when cases are filed. So there's a number that they can call. Each borough is a little bit different. There's different methods of calling in. There's also email addresses that you can email in directly to the court to be able to attend virtually. And these virtual appearances, for the most part, is similar to what we've been doing since the beginning of COVID. I myself mostly do affirmative work, so we generally sue landlords for problems, and all of our cases so far have been virtual. We've appeared in camera, similar to how we're doing this right now, with the judge, with the court attorneys, with the landlord or the landlord attorney, and even our tenants are able to appear. But they are understanding that not everyone has the privilege and the luxury of having the technology available to appear. So they are allowing folks to come in to court on a limited basis if they are unable to attend virtually. So you can still go in person for your cases if you want to, but you're not mandated to do so. You can call in, you can Skype in, or what they're using is a Skype for Business. You can Skype in and be able to attend your hearings and your court appearances virtually.
Cases of those people that had eviction that were processed before March.
Mm-hmm.
Has that gone into effect? Because we're talking about two separate ones, no? Pre-COVID and post-COVID.
You are right. There are two types of situations. You have your pre-COVID cases and your post-COVID cases. The post-COVID cases are the ones we discussed where they're starting to now file the papers and stuff. And tenants are being given the option of appearing virtually. For the pre-COVID cases, they're not all of them are being put in. Like I mentioned before, I think it's only for 2 attorney cases so far. So if you are someone who had a court case against your landlord and you did not have an attorney in that situation, you're not being scheduled yet for hearings to come in. Courts are not contacting you, giving you dates to reappear. What they're doing now is they're bringing in cases with two attorney cases. So we're being contacted by the courts. Landlord attorneys are being contacted by the courts, and they're asking us for updates on cases, whether we've been able to settle them since the last time we appeared, or whether it's a case that needs to move forward. And courts are using this opportunity that we are during COVID, where they're not necessarily churning through all of these cases like they normally do, where they see hundreds of cases a week. And they're using this opportunity to go through their court calendar and start calendaring some of these cases that maybe have been on the calendar for a little too long, and see if there's a way for us to settle them. Now, the good thing is that the moratorium, is in effect for everyone. So even if you are someone who had a pre-COVID case and you previously had an eviction notice put forward for you, you're still protected from eviction until October 1st. Now, there is a little bit of a discrepancy and an issue in regards to how they're able to get warrants of eviction now for pre-COVID cases. As you can imagine, the courts are really big. There's a lot of moving parts in regards to the court. We have the folks on the Court of Appeals who are at the top. Jen Fior is the person in charge of all of this. But from what I'm seeing for pre-COVID cases that have warrants of eviction already issued, those are no longer valid. Landlords have to file motions to get those eviction warrants reissued by the court in order to be able to give those to marshals to act on them. So it is a process. They do have to still do something extra, but it's not necessarily something extraordinary or difficult for them to do. Filing a motion for them is pretty simple, as we, in our practice, we've seen before for restoration cases. That's a very common thing. So we're seeing some of those. What I'm not sure about right now is how the courts are handling all of them. From what I've seen, even for folks who are filing new cases, it's taking them a while to even get an index number, the number that is like the identification number of your case. So we're not really sure how things are going. It's like we're taking it week by week because things are always changing. We get new executive orders every other week. We get orders from Chief Justice Lawrence Marks every other week. So it really varies and it really changes. So we're just seeing how things go right now. But as of now, regardless if you had a pre-COVID or post-COVID case, there are no evictions happening until October 1st.
I know this has only been extended to October 1st. What is the council doing? I know that recently they had met up and they were in the works with passing something that could extend till next year in April, and that could give people the amplitude to be able to catch up with the rent, given the circumstances that everything would go back to normal, which is a new normal now. What does that look like?
So the last time we spoke, and this talks a little bit about how legislation works. When something goes to like the House or the Senate to get passed, it'll change. What they were talking about before made a lot of revisions and made a lot of changes, but it was recently signed by Governor Cuomo. It's the Tenant Safe Harbor Act. Basically, what this does is for folks who suffered from, the reality of COVID, folks who lost their jobs, lost their income, who have been financially affected by it. If you have a non-payment situation that occurred between the months of March and the present date, or at least whenever the moratorium, finishes and we're back to our new normal, as you mentioned, you can be evicted for that. So they can sue you for that money, and they are suing you. They are going to be suing for that money. When you, generally speaking, and maybe I'll take a little bit of a step back. When you're sued in court, there are two things that the landlord might try to get. A landlord wants to get, a monetary judgment because they want the money that you owe. They also want a possessory judgment that allows them to take possession of the apartment. That's when evictions happen. Through the Tenant Safe Harbor Act, if you're someone who had a financial hardship and you are sued for non-payment, the landlord is not able to get a possessory judgment against you. So they can't evict you for that non-payment period. What the landlord can get is a monetary judgment. So they will get a judgment from the court acknowledging the amount of money that's owed, whether you fight the case or not. If you fight the case and you get that money reduced, or you have some other defenses to it, that's great. But if you're someone who really had no other defenses, no other conditions in your apartment, besides this COVID-related issue, then they'll get a monetary judgment against you for that amount. And the landlord can take that monetary judgment and do things like garnish your wages, which leads us to another problem, because if you do go back to work and your wages are being garnished because of this, chances are you're likely going to fall into another non-payment action. And in that situation, when you have another non-payment action that's not directly related to COVID, even though we know it is because of this, then they can get a possessory judgment against you at that point, if you do fall into non-payment again. So it's a slippery slope right now. We're not sure, how courts are going to be dealing with it, because, like I said, they just started, new cases now, but they're very slow with the process of starting these cases. We're very interested in seeing, how courts react to this, what issues, we're foreseeing these types of issues, but we don't necessarily know that's going to happen. So we're just waiting to see what happens with that. But there have been things that have been passed, and the Tenant Safe Harbor Act is something I think that is providing a benefit, because it is giving a protection to certain tenants who have non-payment during this period of time. But in the event that we don't have, programs in place to help with this rent, with the money that's being owed, then a lot of tenants are going to fall into that bubble where their wages are going to be garnered, and they will potentially see future non-payment actions against them. Something else that was passed was the COVID rent relief fund, which thankfully is able to provide folks with rent relief during this period of time. It was only open for a short period of time. I believe it was the third week of July, and it got extended to August 6th. So at this point, the program is done. But they are able to help tenants who meet a certain income threshold with back rent during the period of March to the present date. So at the very least, it seems that there are programs being put in place to assist tenants with back rent, because that is going to be the biggest problem that we're seeing. But until there is an actual rent freeze or a rollback of the rents or a mortgage freeze, we don't see or anticipate that this is going to stop the majority of evictions that are going to be taking place, or eviction cases that will be put in place.
What is it like for you to be working on a day-to-day, working on these? I'm sure you're working late hours on these issues.
Well, the thing about our office is that we never really stopped. When COVID started, even though housing court was a little bit on pause with new eviction cases, my unit specifically deals with affirmative litigation. So when there are problems in the apartment, you have leaks, mold, rats, bed bugs, lead paint violations. Something we definitely saw was a lot of, folks who didn't have electricity in their apartments. We were still able to litigate, and we could still file cases virtually. So to be honest, not much has changed on our end in terms of how we were doing our work. We were still able to file cases. We were still conferencing cases with courts. We were still in communications with entities like Con Edison, with HRA offices, with HPD, in terms of getting repairs done. In terms of things that might be a little bit different, is maybe because the eviction cases have been on pause, there's been a lot of just questions about what's going to happen once things start moving forward. So we're preparing for the inflow of cases that are going to start coming in once these cases are all being filed and it's being properly indexed. And we're just preparing ourselves. We're preparing our attorneys for that, because that is something that is going to happen very soon. In terms of my day-to-day, I will say, though, our hotline number, which we'll post later on, and I'll just say right now, it's 917-661-4500, has still been active. And if you're someone who's had a situation, not just with housing, but with your unemployment, with your public benefits, with your immigration, you people were still able to call that number, and we were getting a ton of calls in the last couple of months for referrals, for information, for people who needed advice, and even for litigation in regards to their housing problems if they needed someone to step in and sue. Another thing that's been going on is, there are websites like it's a website called JustFix.nyc, where a tenant is able to file a case against their landlord virtually. They don't have to, physically go to court in order to start a case. The website is very simple to use. It's a simple tool. It looks up your landlord's information. It drafts the letter. It puts all of your information on all the court papers. So it's been very helpful. And what happens is when these cases get filed with the court, they automatically get assigned to an attorney, one of the attorneys working in the nonprofits, whether it's my office at Legal Services or Legal Aid Office or any of the other nonprofits. And you automatically get an attorney. In the past, it's been a little bit difficult because it's been very zip code based. It's also been very based on like your income and your household size and stuff like that. But now anyone, for at least in the past few months, anyone who has been filing for emergency repair cases has been getting an attorney referral and is getting representation on those cases. So we've definitely not stopped. We've been working nonstop, and we're going to continue working nonstop, as COVID goes on and as these cases continue.
What is the DBA, that is the Dominican Bar Association, doing at the moment with assisting the community?
Since COVID started, a lot of bar associations and a lot of organizations in general have been struggling because we always have a calendar of events that we want to do in the beginning of the year that we're always planning towards. Because of the social distancing needs and needs of quarantine, a lot of those needs have changed. But the DBA has definitely stepped up in that we've almost immediately moved all of our events online. So we've been able to do things like Know Your Rights presentations. We've been able to do virtual workshops, health workshops, fitness workshops, all virtual, all online, so that folks are able to still participate in the DBA and get information out there for folks who do need it. One of the things that we have done, and we're very proud of this, is we have donated money to organizations to feed folks who needed it during the COVID pandemic. I believe the DBA helped raise $10,000 and distributed $10,000 worth of groceries to NYCHA homes in the Bronx. We also participated with the other bar associations to provide funds for restaurants who were struggling. These are restaurants that we've previously partnered with, restaurants that are from the neighborhood, and making sure that they're able to function during this time and use that to provide food for healthcare workers and hospitals, that needed it also during this period of time. We do have an upcoming event. I will say we have our scholarship gala coming up on September 19th.
That's right.
And in that gala, we will be distributing scholarships to law students. Every year, we distribute scholarships to deserving law students who have applied, who demonstrate service in the community, service with their family, and through their education. And this year, we are continuing that. Instead of doing a physical gala, we are doing a virtual one. And we're still going to be able to distribute scholarship funds for students that are in need and who demonstrate a commitment to the community. So, we're still active. We're still doing stuff. We've done a ton of programs over this year. And, we're not stopping anytime soon.
We will take a quick break. And when we return, Attorney Gonzalez will discuss the programs and resources provided to tenants at the Office of Legal Services. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Attorney Gonzalez, there are nonprofit organizations advocating for tenants. In the beginning of the pandemic, they were protesting for there to be a rent freeze. And now they are protesting for there to be a rent cancellation. Can you please share with us what is the status of that rent cancellation?
These organizations and tenant advocates are pushing for, this to still happen. When we talk about a rent freeze or rent cancellation, which pretty much is almost the same thing, what we're really asking for is for relief to be given to landlords with their mortgages and their bills so that they don't need to depend on tenant rent to be able to function. Because we can't just have a rent cancellation without also ensuring that the landlord's interests are protected in maintaining these buildings. Because, like we talked about before, at the end of the day, they still have a mortgage to pay, they still have taxes that they're paying, they still have their employees, like the super, the people doing the billing and the management of the building that they still need to pay. So those, they're still happening. A ton of tenant advocate groups, several that we work with, such as CASA in the Bronx, and Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition, that's in the Upper Bronx. These organizations are still fighting for rent freezes and rent cancellation, and for better protections for tenants, because like I talked about before, with the issues with the Tenant Safe Harbor Act, where you're getting a monetary judgment against you, that's still going to affect you moving forward. And if you're not able to pay your rent because your wages are garnished, you're going to find yourself in court again. Some other stuff that they're trying to advocate for is also for better behavior from these landlords. If landlords are going to benefit from these mortgage freezes, from cancellation of their mortgages or relief of their mortgages and their taxes, we also want to make sure that these are not bad actor landlords. Landlords that are notoriously known for harassing their tenants, for refusing to make repairs, and for continuously just affecting their livelihoods. We want to make sure these are decent landlords that are getting this relief and these benefits. So they're fighting for a lot of these things, and it's very interesting to see how far it goes. But it's definitely been getting a ton of movement on it. A lot of tenants are definitely going to be affected by all of the ongoing litigation in the future, and a lot of them are taking to the streets, are advocating and organizing to affect this change, because no one wants to be evicted during a global pandemic. No one wants to be put on the street or their livelihoods put at risk because of a situation like this. So we'll see how that keeps going, but it's definitely still something that's happening and that's not stopped. And we'll see if the governor, if the city council, if the mayor, steps up and does something in regards to this.
I understand there was a rent relief program that expired on August the 6th. What additional resources and programs are there for tenants?
So the rent relief program was something that was in effect. It was in effect for a very short time, unfortunately. I think it was just 3 or 4 weeks. Basically, this helps cover rents accrued during the pandemic. So after March through the present date of when your application was submitted. And it's basically meant to assist you when you have these ongoing arrears that are accruing. There were income limitations, but because a lot of folks were unemployed, we do have a large population of folks in New York City that are lower income. They were able to qualify for this program. And we're starting to see the approvals and the denials come in. So hopefully this is something that helps alleviate some of the burden on some of our low income community, that they were able to benefit from this. I wish that it was more widely known, but I do know that there were a lot of information being thrown out there. Our organization, the other nonprofits, and the other tenant advocate groups, even on social media, were posting about this program. So I'm hopeful that a lot of people were able to apply. If you did apply, you should be getting your approval or denial relatively soon if you haven't already gotten it. But that's only meant to help with rent accrued during COVID, not for rent owed before COVID. Um, Tenants do have other options to sort of getting their rent covered for them, under certain circumstances. HRA, the Public Benefits Welfare, organization and association, they're still doing what's called a one-shot deal or a rental arrears grant to assist with rent. In the past, you would have to go in person, submit several documents. And for anyone who's ever been to a job center, or what we call a welfare center, you'll be there all day. Even if you show up at 9 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to speak to someone until later in the afternoon, because there's just so many people there and so little people working at any given time. Thankfully, you're able to do this online in the safety of your own home. So you're not, required to, go and put yourself at risk, or your loved one's health at risk. You can do this application online. If there are documents that you can submit, I believe they are allowing you to take pictures and submit them that way. or they're just not asking for some of these documents. And they are providing rental relief for folks who do need it. So you can get a rental arrears grant for rent that is owed. And I think they also are covering rent from before COVID as well. Um, so, that is something that is happening. There are also other programs that people can qualify for, programs that were in existence pre-COVID as well, also administered by HRA, such as the FEPS program or the City FEPS program, which helps folks who have minor children in the household. And a lot of these programs you can apply for even if you are someone who's undocumented. If you have children in the household that are citizens or that have status, you still qualify for this program. Granted, it's a little bit different because of your status in terms of like your household composition. Because unfortunately, if you don't have status, you don't count in that composition. But though those programs are available, they're still there, and people still can apply for them. If you do fall under this situation or the circumstance where you do need help, I do recommend calling any of your nonprofits or even your elected officials. I'll say it again, the number for Bronx Legal Services to be able to receive assistance is 917-661-4500. You can feel free to call the number and you'll be given an appointment with an advocate in a few days. And they'll be able to assist you, regardless if it's doing an actual rental arrears application with you on the phone. Let's say you're someone who maybe isn't as tech savvy or you don't understand it too well. They'll be on the phone with you and they'll be able to do the application with you. If you're someone who qualifies for the FEPS or City FEPS program, then you'll get a referral to another agency that handles that and is able to do those applications. So definitely call. Again, the number is 917-661-4500, and they'll be able to assist you with those types of benefits. One last thing, I do know that there is a program with the pandemic EBT. I'm not 100% familiar with this, but I do believe that it's meant to offset the cost of food that would have been provided in public schools for children that were going to school. So I don't believe it's a lot of money. I think it's around $420, but it is something that you should be applying for. I think that they might be doing it automatically, but it's a little bit weird how it's being handled because they're using information from the Department of Education to determine who was enrolled in school and the number of people to get it from. But it is a benefit that you can get, and if you're not getting it, you should definitely call legal services because you can get it regardless of immigration status. So regardless if you're a citizen or not, this is something that you should still be able to get for your children in the household.
For more information on legal services, where can you be contacted?
So our office is not just housing. We have immigration attorneys, family law attorneys, education attorneys, foreclosure attorneys, and housing, and public benefits attorneys. So like I said before, our number, if you need help, is 917-661-4500. You can call Monday through Friday. I think the hours are 10 to 4. And you'll be given an intake appointment with an attorney or another advocate in my office that would be able to assist you. And they can help you with a wide range of varied things. We're getting a lot of calls in relation to unemployment insurance benefits. So if you're someone who has applied and has not received your benefits yet, which I've heard is a lot of folks so far, or you're someone who has applied and is starting to receive them, but did not receive your retroactive benefits, you can definitely call for a consultation to get some more information, some advice. And if they can take your case, they can help advocate with Department of Finance to get this money issued to you. We also handle immigration issues. One of the sad things about this pandemic is that while most courts have taken a pause, everyone is still working, but the things that they're doing is a little bit differently. One thing that has not changed is the immigration court. That's still going on. They're still deporting people. They're still hearing cases. Nothing has stopped, unfortunately, on that end. So if you do have, immigration issues, if you're wondering how your immigration status would affect you applying for public benefits, definitely give the number a call because they would be able to talk to you about it. I know there have been some changes with the public charge. Unfortunately, I do not know too much about that to be able to talk about it, but I do know that my colleagues in the office who do handle the immigration and public benefits portions of this would be able to assist you with that. So again, our number is 917-661-4500. Feel free to call.
Thank you so much, Attorney Atenedoro Gonzalez, for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have you at Bella Fashionistas TV.
Thank you for having me. I'm always excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to follow us on social media at Bellas Fashionistas TV and our media partner at BronxNet TV. To watch more of our programming, please visit our websites at bellasfashionistas.com and our media partner at bronxnet.org. Please be safe. Have a great day.